Hi everyone. Today demo is in .NET 6 mock HTTP client instance using XUnit. Okay, we are going to test the HTTP client in .NET 6 using the XUnit test project. Okay, here is our sample project. I have created a API project. Okay, in .NET 6. So in this project, I have created some sample services that's going to use HTTP client for consuming the third-party API. Okay, in the services folder, I have added couple of services. So let's go to first service. Okay, if you observe here code, the constructor is injected with HTTP client. Okay, and using that HTTP client instance, and from those extension methods we are invoking the third party API. Okay, and its registration in program.cs file looks like this is the registration. Okay, we are registering our first service with the HTTP client instance, and we are going to configure the base address. Okay, like this we are going to consume the third party API. This is one way. And if you go to second service, so it is also consuming same endpoint but different approach. So in the second service, we are injecting the HTTP client factory. Okay, HTTP client factory. And from that HTTP client factory, we are generating the HTTP client instance based on the registered name. So this registered name is nothing but the name registered in the program.cs file. Like this, we are going to register. So based on the name with their configurations, uh, HTTP instance gets created. Okay, so these are the two approaches. So in this demo, we are going to write one test case for each method in these services. Okay, total two test cases, one for HTTP client and another for using iHTTP client factory. Okay, and here I have created a XUnit project. Okay, you can see XUnit project. By default, Microsoft provides us a template of XUnit project. I have created that project. In this project, we have to write our logic for implementing the test cases. For that, let's first define our folder structures. Okay. For defining our folder structures, I will create a folder like system. System will contain subfolders like controllers, services. And in this video, particularly, I am going to only deal with the services because my main focus is to mock the HTTP client. Okay, and if you are really interested to learn how how to test the controller, how to test the Entity Framework core, I have already made a video. So the video link will be available in the description. You can watch it. So okay, systems is nothing but it's entire our project. So under this system, we will have subfolders like services, controllers like that. Okay. And next folder I want to create is helper. Any common methods we want to implement, those will be go under helper folder. And next folder will be mock data. Okay. Sorry, not under helper. Let's create a root level mock data. Okay. And finally, our test project folder structure looks like this: helper, mock data, and system. Under system, we have services. Okay. And next, we have to add the API reference into the test project. Okay. So here I have already added the package, so it is showing message like that already added. So if you haven't added API project reference into the test project, please make sure to add it. For Visual Studio users, it is very easy because graphical interface provides very easy way to add the references. Okay. So next, I have to install couple of packages into my test project. Okay. So let's install them. So the first package I want to install is mock. So this is the .NET mocking pro NuGet library. Okay. So I'm going to copy the command from .NET CLI. Visual Studio users can search in Visual Studio directly, or you can copy the package manager command from here. Okay. Now install the package. The next package we have to install, that is a Fluent exceptions package into the test project only. Install the package. Okay. After installing package, let's go to our client one service. So first I am going to write a test case for this method. Okay. So that means I have to inject the HTTP client instance into my client one service. So in test project under systems, under services, let's add a new test file like test client one service. Okay, this is our test file. Now in this test file, let's write our test. Okay, so let's define a one test method like public async task. And what is my name of my method? Get, right? So get, I want to get the collection of results. Okay. Okay. Now to make this method as a test case, it should be decorated with the fact. Okay. That loads from XUnit namespace. And after adding fact, you can see run a test, debug a test, uh, some intelligence commands are showing. Okay. Now let's implement AAA formula in test cases, that is like arrange. Okay. Act, asset. So arrange means all the variables, declarations, initialization, all will comes under arrange. Act means invoking the test method. So here we are using get method, right? So calling this method is nothing but a act, means some action. And asset means verifying the test result. Okay. So this is the AAA formula. So here what I want to test, client one service, right? So I can create a variable like client one service equal to new client one service. Okay, but it is expecting HTTP client instance. So what I will do, let's create a HTTP client instance. New HTTP client. Okay, so this HTTP client contains some overloaded methods. So let's go through those overloaded methods. One is empty constructor, another is HTTP message handler. Now, this HTTP message handler will contain request, type of request, and all the invocation process, everything. So here what we will do, we are going to mock the HTTP message handler, okay? And we are going to pass it to our HTTP client constructor. Okay, so we have to mock what HTTP message handler, right? So let's create some helper method. Okay, let's create a helper method that we can use here. So in the helpers, I can create like HTTP client helper. So this is our helper class. Here, let me create a static method that going to return HTTP message handler, mock message handler. So this contains uh, some dummy HTTP response that we are going to expect while testing the HTTP client instance, and also we have to uh, protect the, or we are going to mock the send async method. Okay, so send async method is the main method which will be internally called by any API extension method. Here we have get from JSON async, right? So similarly, we will have get async or post async, post async, post as JSON async. All these methods internally invoke the send async method. So we are going to uh, mock that send async method as well in the method that we are going to create in the HTTP client helper. Okay, so let me revert it back. So let's create a method public static, and it's going to return a mock. Okay, not a normal HTTP, it is a mocked one. So mock HTTP message handler. Okay, so I'm going to create some generic method like get results. So it is a successful HTTP handler. Okay, of generic type T response. Okay, so this is my method. So let's import the namespaces. Mock loads from mock. Okay, and HTTP message loads from system.net.http. Okay, the first thing is let's initialize the some dummy HTTP response message. So that is like where HTTP response, so dummy response, new HTTP response message. Okay, and it's going to take parameters like content. Content is nothing but our result. So here we are passing some dummy data to this method, right? We are going to serialize and store. So new string content of JSON convert Microsoft dot serialize object, and I'm going to pass those response. So I'm storing my dummy response that I am expecting from the HTTP client instance for testing. Okay, and next we are going to specify the status code. So this is get results, right? Means get results means OK result status. So let's assign the OK result status code. HTTP status code, okay, dot OK. So here prepared here HTTP response message object. And next let's define the header like content dot headers dot content type and equal to new media type header value. Okay, inside of it, I am going to specify the application slash JSON normal media type header value. Okay, so that's about the HTTP response message. Now let's mock the HTTP message handler. Okay, where mock handler equal to new mock HTTP message handler. So here we mocked the HTTP message handler. So if you inspect the HTTP message handler, and inside of it one protected method, if you are using non-async method, you need to uh, mock the send method. If you are using asynchronous method, we have to use the send. We have to mock the send async method in the HTTP message handler. So we are going to mock the send async because I am using asynchronous calls, and it is also a protected method. Okay, so for mock the send async method, what we can do means mock handler dot. So we want to mock the protected method, not a public method, right? So for that we have to call a method like protected. Okay, that loads from mock. Next we can set up that method with the desired results we expect. Okay, so I want to set up which method. Let's go again to HTTP message handler. I want to set up this one, right? So what is this return type? HTTP response message. Okay, so let's copy this method type and give it here inside of the setup type. Okay, let's import the namespaces and here open braces and specify the name of the method I want to mock. I want to mock send async. Okay, and next this we can pass arbitrary number of arguments. These arguments are nothing but the actual arguments of the method. So for this send async method, we have two input parameters like HTTP request message and cancellation token. But uh, we are not more specific what is the HTTP request message and what is the cancellation token. Okay, for that what we can do means while mocking, we can mock the input parameters like ITXPR. Okay, so this ITXPR for when we don't know the or when we don't care about the specified input parameters. Okay, so is any kind of message it can take in input parameters it can take, and let's define the type of the parameters. HTTP request message. Okay, and next parameter is cancellation token, right? 8xpr is any and it is cancellation token. Okay, uh, and finally we are setting a send async, right? So we have to return uh, our custom HTTP response message. So we have already prepared HTTP response message, right? So we are going to return that response from this method whenever this send async executed. So what I can do, return async, and I can okay. And finally, let's return this mock handler. Return mock handler. Okay, so what we have did here, we are mocked HTTP message handler. Why? Because our HTTP client instance expecting HTTP message handler. So what is the benefit of mocking HTTP message handler means we can customize the response and we can mock the send async method. Okay, so this is how we are going to mock the HTTP message handler. Now go to our test file and here let's get the data. So where mock handler equal to HTTP client helper dot get results async. So here from our test case, what the results we are expecting? Public API container, right? So here it should be public API container, and for this method we have to pass the some dummy result so that we can expect whenever we are test this method. So for that we have to add some mock data into our test project. So for that, let's create a class like public API mock. So here let's add a static method that's going to return some dummy public API container response. So I have already created some snippet. So let me going to copy and add it here. Okay, here is my static method that's going to return some dummy public API container, mocked container. So count entries like public API content is like this. Okay. So let's pass this mock data to our helper method as an input. Okay, let's go to test client service, and here we can pass the data. So where mock data equal to public API mock dot get. Okay, and let's pass that mock data to this method. Okay, and we are successfully getting the mock handler, and this mock handler let's pass to the HTTP client. So mock handler dot object, that's going to return the HTTP handler message object. And now we can finally pass the HTTP client. And here one more thing we have to do with HTTP client, we have to define our base address as well. Okay, otherwise our case will fail, because whenever constructor injected into this object, there is no base address, only path is there. Where is base address then? Base address is in program.cs file. Here, while registering the client one services, we have added some basic configuration that are related to HTTP client, that is like base address. So this base address should be assigned. So copy that, okay, and to the HTTP client.base address, we can pass that address. Okay, so these are the arrangements like variables, declarations, all the required inputs for test a method or comes under the arrange. Now act is nothing but simply calling the this method, the test method. So where result equal to uh, client service dot get, and it is an asynchronous method, right? We should await it. Okay, so since we have mocked the HTTP message handler with our own response, whatever we pass here, that will be returned here, right? So first let's test whether we are getting the result or not. Okay. So for that I am going to implement a simple test. Okay, very simple test, that is data is not null. For that what I can do, asset, sorry, asset dot not null and pass the result. Means I got some data from the while testing this method. Okay, and along with this I want to test. What I want to test? whenever this method is executed, get from JSON async, it is internally called send async method. So I want to verify whether the send async method is called or not. Okay. So for that, what we can do means here we have mock handler, right? And it is passed to this client, same instance. So we can use the mock handler, sorry, mock handler. Since I want to test about a protected method, right? So call protected. So that's going to load from mock.protected. Now I can verify. So what I want to verify? I want to verify the send async method. So copy the name here, send async method. Okay. So if our test case is successful, send async method will automatically execute it exactly one time because get from JSON async internally calls it. So what I will test times dot, okay, from mock times dot exactly once means it should be called only once, not 0 times or more than one time. Okay, so that is one test. Along with that, we can test the path, the entire path of the URL and also request. If you observe here, only given basic address, but path we don't given like entries, but it will get because internally this will get executed. So we can test whether the path is exactly matching or not. For that, what I can do means itr xpr.is http request message that was used by this send async method I am testing here. Okay. Request dot method equal to http method dot get. Okay, that is one test, and along with that I can match my URL also. Request URI equal to, I can copy this entire path, new URI, and pass that path slash, and what is the remaining path that is in the original client service, that is entries. So here it is double equal to, okay, and finally here we have to call the cancellation token. Okay, like this we have to verify. And here we used is, and here we used is any because we know the parameter here, exact parameters what we want to test. Here when we don't know, we can pass any. Okay, so that is the difference. And here testing the result as well as the send async method is called exactly once or not, and the request is HTTP get or not, and the URL is matched or not. Okay, now let's build the project. Okay, project has been successfully built, and let's test the case. For testing the case, I can simply click on this run test. Okay, so test is started running. And you can see the test results outcome is passed. One total test, one passed, one failed, zero skipped, one. That means we have successfully tested our unit. Okay, and let's make our test purposefully fails. So what I will do, just give the domain only. Okay, don't give entire path and run again. Whether test is passing or failing, check it. Here you can see total test 1 and failed 1. And here we can have a stack trace also, the reason behind the failure. If I scroll up, see, it is showing failed. Okay, so that is because we have to give the exact route. Okay, so we have successfully tested our get method in the client one service. So in this method, it is injecting the HTTP client, but Microsoft has provided several different ways of uh, invoking the API calls. Like we can use HTTP client instance directly, or we can use IHTTP client factory. And IHTTP client factory, we have already seen there is one more service that is using, right, injecting HTTP client factory, and from that HTTP client factory, it is getting the HTTP client instance, then invoking the API call. Okay, so here let's write one more test that's going to check this method. Okay, and the service injecting here not HTTP client, here it is injecting HTTP client factory. Okay, now we have implemented lot of test logic already, so same logic we are going to consume, because uh, we have most of the logic is for testing the HTTP client instance, that is already done. We just need to mock the HTTP client factory before creating the HTTP client instance. Okay, so for that, let's create one more test file here in the systems under services. Let's create one more test file like test client to service. Okay, this is our test client to service class. So here what we will do, let's just write a method for test method public async task. So here what we are testing, client to service get method. Okay, so get underscore results. Okay, let's threading task method. Let's write the AAA formula. Okay, first let's initialize the our client to service that we want to test. Where client to service equal to new client to service. Okay, but it is expecting the HTTP client factory. Okay, let's mock the HTTP client factory, where mock HTTP client factory equal to new mock HTTP client factory. Okay, here we mock client factory. Okay, but here based on a name that we passed from the create client method of the HTTP client factory, we are generating the HTTP client instance. So to do that, to generate the HTTP client instance, we have to mock this create client method. Okay, so to mock the create client method of HTTP client factory, what we can do means mock HTTP client factory dot setup. So setup used to mock the results or outcome from a particular method. Okay, dot create. So here it is expecting some input, right? So we can use it dot is any name, but it is compulsory, any name. It should be a method. Okay, we set up here, and when we set up a method, finally we have to return the expected output. So here, okay, expected output is nothing but the HTTP client instance. Again, like a old logic, we have to prepare the HTTP client because it is ultimately generating the HTTP client, right? So we have to initialize HTTP client, and to that HTTP client we have to pass our mock HTTP handler. So what I will do, I will copy paste the entire old logic from the test client one service. Okay. So what I required everything because I want to generate my HTTP client instance. So copy everything here. Okay. Import the namespaces. Okay, now here I have HTTP client instance. So what I will do, I will return my prepared HTTP client instance as a result. Okay, so only 2 lines of code just added when we compare to this test method. That is nothing but HTTP client factory mocking and set up the create client method. Okay, remaining everything will be same. Now I can pass the mock HTTP client factory. Okay, dot object, and I can copy remaining all the things like asset and act from here only. Okay, just copy this and replace it. Okay, so here it is client service 2. Client service 2 also contains method like get only. Okay, so asset namespace, protected namespace, cancellation token. Okay, so same, everything is same. Just only we are injecting the HTTP client factory instead of HTTP instance directly. Okay, so now let's test our new method as well. So to test it, it should be decorated with the fact, and now we got the text click. Okay, click on it, and you can see test client to service get results method executed, and outcome is passed. So that means we have successfully tested our HTTP client mocking and HTTP client factory. Okay, so that's all about testing HTTP client calls in .NET 6 application using XUnit tests. Okay, I hope this video has delivered some useful information to you all. If you like my video, please support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new videos. Until then, signing off.